Dear friends, I am Dr. Seema Dhawan from Department of Education, HNB Garhwal University, Srinagar, Uttarakhand. Today we will discuss content planning and integration. The famous quote, "If you fail to plan, you plan to fail," has been thrown for ages. Planning is the process of making plans. It is a process of thinking about the activities required to achieve a desired goal. Planning is at the heart of an effective teaching, and every teacher plans for his or her classroom, for the activities, what should be the goal, what will be the activities, the learning experiences, the assessment technique. So, it is deciding what to be done, when it is to be done, and how it is to be done in the classroom. There are few characteristics of planning. It is goal oriented, it is directed towards the goals formulated before. Of course, looking ahead in a progressive manner, process of making plans for the future. It is an intellectual process when the teacher decides what they have to do in the classroom. It involves choices and decision making to choose what content should be taught and how the content should be delivered in the classroom. It is the primary function of the planning is management, managing all the learning experiences and other activities to achieve the goal. It is a continuous process. The interest of the student should be maintained throughout the learning experiences. Planning is all pervasive. It includes all the activities, experiences, topics to be covered, assessment techniques to be used, and of course, planning is designed for efficiency. Efficiency of the teacher and for effective teaching learning process. Now, what is content? Content is the information to be learned. It is another term for knowledge, a collection of facts, figures, principles and theories. Planning about the content plays very significant role during the process of teaching and learning, because at this stage the teacher decides what to teach and how to teach and how to assess the skills or knowledge which has been given. What is content planning? It is a plan which describes who, what, how, where and when content is developed. Talking about who, every content is meant for a specific group, the target group for whom it is designed. What deals with what content a teacher wants to deliver? It should be based on the needs of the students. What are the needs of the students, the requirements of that particular target group? How the content will be delivered, how the needs will be met, where it deals with what type of settings is required and also the time period. The most important component is integration. How to integrate theory and practical, knowledge and skills, activity and experiences, goals and assessment technique. All these are content planning, deciding all about the target group, the content to be taught, how the content will be delivered, what will be the settings, etc. deals with the content planning. It involves generating, ordering and selecting the content goals and plan accordingly, because every content planning is directed towards the goals which has been formulated before. How to plan content? A good content planner answers to these questions. Who are we creating content for? That is, who are the students? What is the target group? And what message should be communicated? What content should be taught? So the content planner has to decide the key messages which he wants to communicate. Then how we plan to develop that content, how to decide what content, what resources, their sequencing, their organization, and how can we deliver it best. The planning of teaching, the learning experiences, and also what next. That is beyond this information, beyond that content, what a student can think beyond that. That is to develop the curiosity among the students. What type of content is required? The content should be original, it should be practical, it should provide information and the sources of information. It also provide the answers of the questions or the solutions of the problem. The content must engage the learners and must provide the opportunities to the learners to think about the problem, about the scenario. The content should integrate various types of learning experiences depending upon the variety of the students. It should be short and precise, delivering more in very less efforts. During planning of the content, the first thing while planning a content is to formulate the goals and the objectives. Then sequencing for scaffolded objectives, the organization of the objectives. The next step is organizing the content, how to organize the material or the subject matter to be taught. There are mainly 4 components for organizing of the content. These are scope, sequencing, continuity and integration. Scope deals with both the length and depth of the content. It is the limitation of the content, what should be delivered to the students, what should be included in that subject matter, what the teacher want to communicate to the students. Coming to the sequencing, it is a process of organizing the contents according to the psychological principles. The sequencing of the content should be done in a manner so that the formulated goals related to development of new knowledge or skills can be achieved. The subject matter should be from simple to complex so that the students can think from the low level to the high order thinking. The simple concepts should be included in the earlier frames, which should be progressed by the complex concepts. The horizontal organization of the content emphasizes that how the skills and knowledge the student learn at one time period, at one level, while the vertical organization includes the knowledge and skills learned during a time period. The content should be organized from whole to part. It means the whole structure should be presented before the students and later on parts should be included so that the students can be able to make the relationship between the whole and the part. Sequencing should be spiral. A bit of information should be connected to the next information. The sequencing should be chronological. This is useful while teaching evolution of the species. So there are so many principles of sequencing the content, for arranging the content. The next component is the continuity. How the contents are linked. It is the flow of the information. It emphasizes on the relationship between the concepts and the principles or the facts. It should be from the lower level of objective to the higher level. The next component is integration. Learning is more effective when facts and principles of one subject is related to another. So it deals with integration of the principles of one subject in the other, the concept of one area in other area, the integration of knowledge and skills, the integration of all the objectives, the integration of the skills of 21st century teaching, also the integration of the knowledge with the need of the society. So during the organization of the content, the scope, what to taught, the sequencing of the content matter, use of psychological principles, maintaining the continuity, the flow, the interest of the students, and integration of different views, concepts, skills, objectives, and technology. All these comes under organizing the content. There are two approaches of teaching or organizing the content. In the first approach, the concept is delivered and then after applicability is given. In the second approach, both goes simultaneously. For example, if we have to discuss the leaf margins in the classroom, the teacher can provide that the leaf margin is of different kinds. The first one is entire, which has a smooth edge with no teeth, notches or lobes. The second type is of serrate type, which has small sharp teeth that point towards the tip of the leaf. The third kind is of lobate, or we can say lobed type, having incisions that extended less than halfway of the midrib. So delivering the concept of the leaf margin first and then going for the examples or application. Then he or she may present the classroom situation when the teacher is asking, give any example of entire type. The student is replying mango. Similarly, the next type, lobed type, students may reply coriander from their real life situation. So, in the first approach, the types of leaves have been delivered and then examples have been given. In the second type of approach, teacher may provide about the knowledge of the types of leaf margin, and by saying that the first type is entire type, having a smooth edge with no teeth, notches or lobes, and at the same time he or she can show an example and ask the students about the example from their real world. They may answer people or any leaf having entire leaf margin. So in this type of approach, the teacher is providing the concept and the example from at the same time. For the serrate type, the teacher may ask in the classroom, students may or may not answer, but it is the responsibility of the teacher to connect that type of leaf margin to the real story of the students, to the real objects of the students. For the third type, the teacher may ask for the name of any leaf and the students might relate and say coriander is the example, which a teacher can further extend by saying maple and castor leaves are of lobate type. So these are the two approaches of sequencing the content. It depends upon the teacher what he or she plans to use in the planning, in the content planning. Now what are the criteria for content selection? The first criteria is self-sufficiency. During the content planning, teachers should provide the opportunities to develop the skills related to that particular concept among the students. They have to provide the opportunities to learn themselves, to explore themselves, to reflect themselves and develop self-sufficiency in them, because science is a subject of curiosity. By asking questions, the teacher can develop the skill of finding answers and solutions of the problem among the students. They can encourage the students to learn themselves, to find solution. The second criteria is significance. How important is the content for the students? Are they related to the need of the students? Whether they fulfill the requirement of the students? How important is that content for the students, for the society? The third element is the variety. There are different kinds of students in a classroom. While deciding the content, a teacher should cater to the variety of the students of that target group. Therefore, various kinds of learning experiences should be included. The next component is the suitability. How much that content is suitable for the students? What is required? The content is being included in that course or plan is relevant. The next component deals with the relevancy of the content, that is the validity of the content, the authenticity of the content. What a teacher wants to teach, wants to deliver, either a new knowledge or a skill, that content is able to deliver the same thing or not. That is the validity of the content. The next element is the interest of the students. Learning is more effective when the students are motivated and interested to learn. So, a planner should think of the interest of the students. Can any teacher make the topic interesting? How it can be made interesting? How the content can be made interesting, motivating and continuing? The next component is the utility. What is the use of the content? Why this content is being delivered to the students? What is the need of the students, requirement of the students? The content is useful to them in future also or not? The next component is the learnability. It deals with the age and ability of the learners, whether they are able to learn or not. The type of content is being provided to them. Their skills or the knowledge is according to their age, their capability, and the next component is the feasibility. Feasibility in terms of time, availability of resources, the learning experiences, whether it is feasible to deliver that content for that target group. So, thinking about all these 9 criteria during the content planning is very significant. Now, integration of the content. There are mainly 3 approaches: multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary. Now, what is a discipline? Every discipline has its own experts, has its own objectives, methodology and assessment criteria. It has its own content and research technique. So, every discipline is very specific in its objective, methodology, content, assessment technique, experts and researches. Multidisciplinary it deals with an issue or content which is multidisciplinary in nature. It means the objectives or the content or the method of more than one discipline is used in that particular content. Similarly, interdisciplinary is when the objectives or methods or skills or concepts or principles of other discipline is included in an issue or concept or any subject. Transdisciplinary, it deals with other than the disciplinary concepts and skills with the knowledge or time or practice, new innovation in that field, new research, new knowledge other than the disciplinary areas is transdisciplinary. Now, the steps of content planning, it includes development of the objectives, which is very important and very responsible in nature. Developing objectives, because the whole process of content planning depends upon the objectives. The whole learning experiences, topics, etc. are directed towards those objectives. So, formulating objectives is a very responsible job. The next step is identifying the tasks to achieve those objectives. Then deciding the resources, what resources can be included, the selecting the content, the learning experiences. Then creating a timeline is the next step. When these steps or these areas will be achieved, deciding on the assessment technique, is the next step. One of the important step is integration of the concepts, skills, knowledge, needs, objectives in that content. And nowadays, integration of technology is also very important. It depends upon the type of content is being planned. The next, after deciding all these things, the next step is the writing the content and finalizing the content. Dear friends, to summarize, planning is the soul of an effective teaching. It is the process of designing the content and the learning experiences on the basis of desired goals. On the other hand, content is the information to be learned. Content should be selected on the basis of some criteria such as self-sufficiency, significance, validity, learnability, feasibility, etc. Content planning is to decide who, what, how, where and when, and the most important, what to integrate and how to integrate. Content planning should be done with responsibility. A teacher must plan on the basis of the goals formulated and what he or she wants to communicate to the students. Hope you will plan efficiently in future. All the best. Thank you.